Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. We've had a couple of fights lately that have had very controversial endings. There was the Donovan Crocker fight where Donovan was disqualified after landing a punch at least a second after the bell. He claims he didn't hear it, so on and so forth. Okay, he got disqualified, whatever the case is. The IBF, by the way, ordered a rematch, so they obviously weren't sure about the way it ended. And it was an IBF eliminator. I don't know if there's a final eliminator. It might have been. Anyway, that fight's going to be run back. And we also had the Jamie TKV David Adelaide fight where Adelaide knocked out TKV or stopped him anyway. He heavily floored him with a left hook. This was after the referee had shouted break twice. And I think he put his hand on one of Jamie's arms as if to say break, and he broke and then got flattened. But it does sort of beg the question, what is meant by the phrase protect yourself at all times? Because I've heard this said a lot, especially in the comments sections of the couple of videos I've done about this subject. What does that mean, protect yourself at all times? I mean, you would think that it goes without saying, because the referee, prior to any fight, will go in and speak to both fighters. He or she will say, this is what I expect. Don't break the rules. They usually will say, when I say break, you don't punch on the break, In other words, they'll read them the riot act, okay? And you would think that you wouldn't need to say, well, protect yourself at all times. But all times? Even when you've said break? Even when the bell has gone? I have to protect myself? All times? Really? And it begs the question, well, why do they say that? Where did it come from? And I think it probably is because of incidents like we get with TKV and Crocker. They suffer defeats where there is, not a grey area, but mistakes are made, shall we say? Let's leave it at that. And had they both been protecting themselves, even though on one occasion the bell to end the round had gone, and on another occasion the referee had twice called break, if they'd been protecting themselves, maybe they could have avoided being flattened, because they both were. And it does seem like a strange one. I remember years ago the excellent, very, very underrated welterweight fighter Marlon Starlin. I think this was against Thomas Molinares? I can't remember the opponent, but if you know about Starlin, I mean, in the UK, he's probably best known for beating the crap out of Lloyd Honeyghan and ending Honeyghan's second reign as welterweight champ, and dominated him. And I think Honeyghan, did he retire on his stool, or was he stopped? I know he had a huge disfigured jaw, and Starlin said before that fight, and has insisted afterwards, I never rated Honeyghan. I thought Honeyghan was rubbish. He's not sparing his feelings. But he did get flattened, and I think it was Molinares, when clearly the bell had gone. Everyone heard it. And Starlin relaxed, bang, he's flat out. It's the only time he was ever stopped. He even went up to middleweight and fought Michael Nunn. I think that was his last fight, and went the distance with Michael Nunn, who was doing, at the time was considered to be one of the best fighters in boxing at any weight, was undefeated. And so the idea that he got flattened, but it stood. It actually stood. Even though it was so terrible an injustice, and there have been other cases. I mean, this is just the one that sticks in my mind. Probably if I sat down and really thought about it, I could think of many others. And I'm not talking about bad decisions or anything like that. I'm talking about, I'm not even talking about long counts. I'm talking about when a guy is flattened and shouldn't. Roy Jones Jr. and Montel Griffin was another one. The first fight, they fought twice. In the first fight, Griffin was giving Jones a lot of problems, which was very, very rare to see Jones in any kind of trouble, being given any kind of fight at that point of his career, because he was so untouchable. But Griffin was very, very shrewd, very crafty, a very crafty fighter. Went on to twice defeat James Toney on points. That's how good he was. And he did a dying swan act because Jones hit him slightly after the bell. I seem to remember it was only a split second, but he collapsed, and a lot of people said, he was putting it on. I suspect there might be some truth in that. And Jones was absolutely incandescent with rage. How dare you do this? And, you're stealing my title. And in the rematch, he blasted Griffin out of there in one round. I mean, it's hellish. It was probably the most ferocious, savage act of revenge I've ever seen in a fight. Jones destroying Griffin, who at the time was undefeated, in a round. I mean, he's blasted right through him. And afterwards was still angry about the what he perceived to be the injustice of that disqualification, which was his first defeat. So there's a history of this stuff happening. Protect yourself at all times. It's difficult to protect yourself at all times. What, when you're sitting on the stool? When you're on one side of the referee's talking to you and or talking to the other guy and you're over there. I mean, all times. It seems to me that has arisen, that phrase, and it's been around for as long as I've been following boxing. That's a long, long time. It's arisen to sort of try to, as a sort of afterthought, or almost like a nudge and a wink, to say sometimes the referee will make mistakes. Sometimes punches will be exchanged and it might be a bit 50-50. Make sure you protect yourself. I don't know. What do you think? You tell me. Yeah, if you've got anything to say on the subject, leave it below as usual. Thank you very much for watching the video, and hit the like button if you liked it. And also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. We're getting close to 6,000 subs, aren't we? I think about another 20 or 30 to go, so let's try and get to 6,000. Why not, eh? It pays to have ambition in life. Just kidding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Looking forward to reading your comments as always, and bye for now.